Okay, so I made a movie based on the life of a serial killer, Joel. I guess it's the sponsor of this of this video, but I thought I'd give you an idea of where I was coming from with serial killer movies, and just kind of give you a top 10 of sorts in no particular order. Some of my favorite serial killer movies, serial killer, true crime, based on a true murder event type of movies, because some of these aren't really serial killer movies. The first one I want to bring up is actually, yeah, it's not a serial killer, but it's In Cold Blood, Richard Brooks, and it's a stone cold classic. I mean, my God, not about a serial killer, but about a really horrible event, a murder of an entire farm family, the KILER family, by these two kind of real reckless, transient characters. And the film is just ultra realistic. I mean, based on the reportage by Truman Capote, and a big inspiration in my making my film. But because, I mean, Richard Brooks, in his pursuit of realism, shot the movie in the real farmhouse where the murders took place. He shot, well, I believe some of the real jurors played the same roles, and I mean, two incredible performances as the two killers, Robert Blake and Scott Wilson. Robert Blake, of course, of Robert Blake, and Scott Wilson, who most people know as the old man in The Walking Dead, but he's one of the great American actors, and he's like a little gem. He's an incredible actor, and he blows me away. Any little tiny role that he's in, like he was in The Ninth Configuration, he's just woven into the thread of American film. He's a great, and they play these two characters incredibly shot film too. I mean, black and white scope. Very few films that look like that, with the soundtrack by Quincy Jones. And then even in the poster for the film, I don't think that's the eyes of Robert Blake and Scott Wilson. I think that's the actual eyes of the real killers in there. So In Cold Blood, stone cold classic, true crime, like a fundamental true crime novel and a fundamental true crime film. Next one is kind of not very well known, but it's the Secret Life of Jeffrey Dahmer, aka I think just The Secret Life. This thing came out on VHS in the mid-90s, not long after Dahmer was caught. They made this film kind of really quickly. And it's it was kind of a big video VHS hit at the time, when Henry Portrait for a Serial Killer and those things were The Secret Life, or it just says Dahmer on the VHS, Dahmer in big letters. That's, oh man, again, I don't think the film is that great of a movie. They made it very fast on a very low budget, and the VHS looks almost like a work print. They shot it on film, but it's like there's all this dirt and crap in it, and it feels kind of unfinished in a way, and feels edited on video. And I think they shot it in Los Angeles, but they had like these inserts that tried to make look like the Midwest. But I think what really seals the deal for me with this film, what makes it a good film to me, is the performance by Carl Crew, who was the blonde-haired guy from Blood Diner. And Carl Crew, he has the physicality of Jeffrey Dahmer, and he becomes Jeffrey Dahmer. I think a good serial killer movie has to have a good performance by the lead killer, who takes us on that journey into insanity. And so Dahmer is one of that great. Another film this one is, again, changing gears. This is like a real classic. 10 Rillington Place. The British serial killer John Christie, who was a weird guy, necrophile, strangler. He would gas people. He would put gas on them, and they'd pass out, and then he'd do all kinds of weird things to them. A kind of studio film, higher end film, starring Richard Attenborough as John Christie, and John Hurt in the film, and Judy Geeson as well. The John Christie murders. He basically, this guy, 10 Rillington Place is where he lived and where he did most of his murders. He murdered his wife. He murdered people that stayed with him, and it's a very important case in British legal and popular culture history, because one of the murders, they accused the wrong man of murdering. I think it was his wife, and they executed him. And there was such an uproar, and this John Christie, this man who was falsely accused of John Christie's murder, that I think he was exonerated posthumously, and they abolished the death penalty in the UK primarily because of the uproar, I believe, surrounding John Christie and everything. So an important film, that, and it's a creepy movie. This guy John Christie was just a creeper. Confessions of a Serial Killer. Now, there's a couple of films based on this guy, Henry Lee Lucas. There's Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, of course, which most people know about, but very few people know about Confessions of a Serial Killer, directed by Mark Blair, an indie film, a low-budget film, shot in the Austin, Texas area in the mid-'80s, released in the early '90s on VHS by Roger Corman's New Horizons, and this cheesy cover art that was trying to do a ripoff on Silence of the Lambs. But it's not a Silence of the Lambs ripoff. This is a film based on the life and crimes of Henry Lee Lucas. And Henry Lee Lucas was just one of these creeper guys. He was just this guy and running around in a car down south, murdering people. And it's Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. You see a little bit of that, but this film sticks very closely to what really happened, and it's creepy and it's scummy. And the lead performance by Robert Burns, who was kind of a fixture of Texas filmmaking, and he's kind of woven into the fabric of horror film as well, because he was the art director, production designer of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He designed Leatherface's mask. He designed the mask, and he worked on Reanimator and The Howling and The Hills Have Eyes. So many films Robert Burns worked on, and he really pulls off. This is his first big acting performance, and he is a hell of an actor. He plays this incredibly well. Incredibly great film. I've done a whole video on it on my channel, and it's about to come back out on home video. They've remastered it. They got the director's got the rights back to it, and so check it out on Facebook. They have a Facebook page, and it's worth checking out. The Deliberate Stranger, Ted Bundy. There's been a few Ted Bundy films been made, but I like this. I think there's something about Mark Harmon that gets me. I don't know, maybe I was a kid and I saw it. It was very nostalgic, but it's not super accurate. It doesn't show everything. A lot of stuff is suggested. There's a lot of police people. It's not really focused on Ted Bundy, but more like the hunt for Ted Bundy. But I think just nostalgia. Mark Harmon, I think, is able to kind of give you that schizophrenic Ted Bundy type of persona. And then I think the soundtrack by Jill Mell, this kind of weird, broken, it's unlike really kind of any soundtrack I've heard on a TV movie, or really any kind of movie. I mean, it's a really exemplary musique concrète electronic score for this mid 80s, 1986, 87 TV movie. Good film. Citizen X, Andre Chickatello, and speaking of TV movies, this was an HBO movie. It's not TV, it's HBO. From the mid-90s, the early to mid-90s, starring Stephen Ray as the Russian policeman who tracks down this Russian serial killer, fighting against the odds. The Russians, serial killers are a decadent Western phenomenon. They cannot exist in Russia. Well, Andre Chickatello was one of the really sickest serial killers, this railway murderer who would take children out from the railways, snatch them away. A good movie. I haven't watched it in a few years, but I mean, Stephen Ray really I think Stephen Ray plays one of the best kind of police investigator characters in these serial killer movies. Most of them are very cardboard characters, and the serial killers are the ones you really want to watch. But he really makes this character a living, and toward the beginning of the film, where he realizes that it's a serial killer. There's that scene where they just keep wheeling the body bags into the morgue. Boom, 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 boom. They do like a four shot, four blow, shot, body bag, body bag. And he's like, just the humanity. He really pulls it off. Ricky 6. Now, this is a film that is not been really officially released. It's on YouTube. I've done a review of it. A great film based on the Ricky Cazzo murders. This was just basically young kids in a small town who get involved in drugs and Satanism and dealing drugs, and murders ensue. So just about a movie about young kids in a small town going through life, of really brilliantly acted. But the main guy who instigated the murders is played by Vincent Kartheiser. And this was kind of like around the time, it was about a year or two before, after he did that movie for Larry Clark, Another Day in Paradise. And oh man, he is great. If you love serial killer films, you owe it to yourself to go see this movie. Angst, a German, or is it Austrian serial killer movie from Gerald Cargill, I believe is the director. This guy was a commercial director, and he self-financed this movie based on real serial killer. This guy tried to kill this old woman, was incarcerated. As soon as he gets out, like, his immediate thing is he's got bloodlust. He goes out and stalks, and we see him almost in real time as he goes out and perpetrates this murder. And it's a wild movie with incredible cinematography. And the movie starts with this incredible crane shot, and there's these cranes and these cameras on rails and wires swooshing and giving you this kind of skewed perspective of the killer. Incredibly well shot film by this really innovative cameraman. What was his name? Zbigniew Rybczynski. And Zbigniew Rybczynski is whoa, that's the type of stuff that he was doing in this film. A great soundtrack, electronic score by Klaus Schulze. And a real cult movie, a cult movie, if there was a cult movie, a real inspiration to Jörg Bucharest. In fact, when Jörg Bucharest interviewed the director for the special edition DVDs and Blu-ray of this film, Angst, incredible film. It's like the trailer says Angst. It says a lot. The trailer just keeps repeating Angst. Town That Dread Sundown, The Phantom Killer, the Texarkana Phantom Killer. Well, I mean, it's a little more of a trying to be like a Hollywood film. I mean, it's an indie film, but directed by Charles B. Pierce of the Bigfoot films and the Moonshiners films, and Legend of Boggy Creek and Moonshiners and that type of movie, the Evictors. But he does this movie. And it's a real, I mean, as far as, those kind of Zodiac, kind of Lover's Lane type of killer movies, this is great. Never Solved. Oh, incredible. And that shots at the beginning with the feet of the killer. Oh yeah. Friday the 13th Part 2 didn't rip that off at all. Incredibly, well shot, well done film. And again, another cult movie. Just for years I would see that VHS, and I'd be scared of that VHS cover. I'd be scared of that poster with the guy with the white man, the Phantom Killer, and then that trombone murder, and then Ben Johnson as the lawman, the famed lawman. Oh come on, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. And finally, in my top 10, I gotta put The Tenderness of the Wolves, based on the murderer Fritz Harman, who was this guy in a wartime Germany. He was a murderer, a dealer of of goods, a smuggler, a man who murdered people and then sold their meat in the black market. And this is a great film. I mean, one of Uli Mal. I mean, produced by Werner Fassbender, directed by Uli Lomel, and an incredible movie. It just really good, but not like most Fassbender movies. They're kind of like a little hard to go down. They're not that, but incredible film.